What's going on, everyone? I'm just your typical average, everyday Canadian nerd here to react to your typical average, everyday American man here to react to and learn from a video about things you should not do when you're in Canada. Well, there's a long list of these things. Most of them are the same types of laws that we see across the Western world. But there are also some additional ones like open carrying a firearm, concealed carrying a firearm. In certain parts of Canada, there are certain bylaws. Like if you're in Canada, near Ottawa, you're not allowed to spit on the sidewalk. But I think that this video is going to cover different topics than what I just mentioned. And I don't know what they're going to be, so this is going to be interesting. Let's get this picture out of the way and get the video started.
What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about what you should not do when in Canada. As in, I think we're talking about violating societal norms.
Yeah, societal faux pas rather than actual laws. Probably.
Like breaches of etiquette, things just as a tourist that when you visit Canada, you should not do this. Or
Oh, like say tourist. No, it's tourist, right? Right? Maybe that's just a dialectical decision.
Or it will be, I don't know, you're gonna have a lot of angry Canadians coming after you, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the consequences of of doing these things are, but I don't necessarily want to find out. But I do necessarily want to find out what these things are that I should not do. So, with that being said, let's take a look. Things, what not to do when in Canada.
But here we're going to talk about what you shouldn't do. And the first note I have for you as a tourist when you do come here to Canada is don't compare Canada to the US. Don't call it the 51st state.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's okay to compare because we have a lot of similarities, but don't talk down about Canada in comparison to the United States. Like, oh, I love how here, blah, blah, unlike blah, blah in the United States. That's okay. But saying the 51st state, for example, I believe that's just inaccurate because the number of states is higher than 50, but mostly is because we are not the United States.
That's like... That's basically the description of this entire YouTube channel. It's comparing Canada to the US. Oh no. Oh no, I already violated the #1 rule on his list. Oh, you know, I'm not in Canada physically doing it. So actually, I think I'm okay. I actually think I'm okay.
Also, comparing is generally an okay thing to do. Like, say, comparing apples and oranges. They are not the same thing, but we can actually look at the nutritional value of each of them and make comparisons. Okay? That does not mean that one of them is better than the other. And that's the type of comparison we're okay with.
Don't say that Canadians are Americans unless you want to get a long list of the many reasons how the US and Canada are different. Because
Oh, well, now that I'm actually listening to a little bit more of what he's saying, it just caught me off guard. Yeah, I mean, why would you just run into Canada as a foreigner, start going around just talking to people, telling them how this is exactly like the United States. Oh, you're just exactly like the United States. That would just be kind of annoying no matter who you are, no matter where you are in the world. Yeah. Unless they're asking you, I guess. If someone wants to know and they're like, hey, is this the same as where you come from? Then it'd be okay. But
Sure.
yeah, unprovoked comparisons to random people about all that stuff. Plus, I'm sure Canadians hear enough of that all the time anyway.
the locals will give you a very informative and very in-length description of how the US and Canada are different. The thing is, you might want to know all those differences, but the thing is, it's not going to make you a lot of friends if you do say that, and it will not be appreciated by the locals. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
Now, my second don't for you is, don't try to talk with your Canadian accent, eh? Nobody's going to appreciate it, buddy.
No, usually when we try the Canadian accent, it's for jokes, unless it's a legitimate accent. So if you're doing that, you're mocking us. Like if I start talking with a Texas accent, then that's not accurate at all.
Wait, I actually don't think that the Canadian accent is that big of a thing that I previously thought. Just based on some of the stuff I'm starting to hear, about the Canadian accent, especially the not existence of a boot not being a real thing, but sorry is a thing. And he actually did exactly a Canadian accent, what Americans interpret to be a Canadian accent.
Yes, and that's largely thanks to South Park, Terrence and Phillip. And I'd just like to make a clarification about the word about, or aboot, and that is the subtlety of the ooh sound. And you can clearly pay attention to the people around you who say the word about, and you might hear the ow, ow, ow sound, and sometimes you'll hear an ooh, ow. It's there. It's subtle, but it's there.
Is this accent that he is about to do, that I'm going to replay, is this an accurate Canadian accent? Like, is this a real thing?
You do say that, and it will not be appreciated by the locals. So that's the first. Nobody's going to appreciate it, buddy. Look, don't try to talk with your Canadian accent, eh? Nobody's going to.
Just like that. That is what I think of when I think of a Canadian accent.
Appreciate it, buddy. Look, don't try your Canadian accent. No one is going to appreciate that, okay? And also, what you'll see is when you travel around Canada, that stereotypical Canadian accent, no one really talks like that anymore. Yes,
Yeah.
Occasionally you hear a buddy and occasionally.
That's exactly what I thought.
Now, that largely depends on where you are, because there are local and regional accents. Every province is slightly different. And then there's Newfoundland, and that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Okay. It's like no one even really talks like that in Canada. That's not a thing. Canadians would probably hear that and be like, what the heck are you doing? Who is that supposed to be? Or if it does exist in certain parts of Canada,
Right.
or somewhere in Canada,
Yeah?
I don't know where, maybe they
Places.
would just think, oh, you must be from this specific region in Canada? Maybe that's more accurate?
You hear an A. But in general, the Canadian accent that we hear on TV, like if you're thinking back to Strange Brew and stuff like that, doesn't really exist anymore. It's kind of like in the U.S. You hear a lot of people making, oh, America and stuff like that. You don't really talk like that anymore. It's really mixed up in the U.S., but it's also really, like here in Canada, it's really mixed up. So you don't have that accent.
It's like people talking with a Texas accent.
Yeah.
And, thinking that that's an American accent, it would be like kind of equivalent to that.
So
Yeah, exactly. And I like that we're on the same page about it's just the Texan accent.
So don't try your Canadian accent when you do come up here. Again, not super appreciated. And let's move into more don'ts that are really specifically for tourists. The next don't I have for you is don't skip the line. Don't line jump. Don't queue jump. Don't queue skip. However you say it.
I would never.
Well, there are some societies, like in America, Canada, and the UK, where lines or queues are a very normal part of busy places, especially when it comes to government access or fast food restaurant type situations. And there are parts of the world where you don't queue up. You just kind of encircle the area and reach and grab. So I understand this.
Oh, no. I would never. No matter where I was on the planet. And I would be very angry at anyone, anywhere, for line jumping. Although I suppose this is something that bad Americans might do. And I've definitely seen it in amusement parks and carnivals and stuff here in the United States. People who just want to cut in line. But those people exist everywhere in the world, right?
Yes, but to a lesser extent in Canada and the UK.
Canadians respect the line. Okay, so whether they're lining up for a bus or they're going into a store or going to the post office and things like that, Canadians get in the line, they form the line, and they stay in the line.
Oh, he said bonus? He has a bonus at the bottom. Don't be late. It's very rude, I think it said. There it is. Bonus, don't be late in Canada. It is considered rude. I absolutely agree. I love this. I love Canadians for abiding by these things. Don't be late. Don't cut in line. I 100% agree.
Form the line and they stay in the line. And people don't appreciate it when you try to butt in front or jump in front of it, okay? So don't skip the line.
Actually, the more I think about it, and maybe it's just my bias of remembering negative interactions, but a lot of people in America, fast food lines, all that stuff, people are trying to sneak around and cut when they think you're not paying attention or something. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, here I've noticed... Oh, that's a great face I paused on, eh? Well, here I've noticed a lot of line cutting is done because... Is this where the line ends? Are you actually in the line, or are you just standing around? And most of the time it's like, yeah, go ahead. We're very polite in that respect. And about being on time... Yes, I'm not wearing a wristwatch. That is... Well, very important, because I have known events that began on time, and if you are 1 minute late, doors locked, you can't go in, you missed your shot. So, punctuality, very important. I personally like to show up 10 minutes early to most things, and I met in with some crowds where everything would start 20 minutes after the start time. I would still show up at the start time, and I wouldn't risk it, because you never know when you're going to get excluded from something just because you're a few minutes late.
Huh.
The thing is, especially if you're going to be getting on public transport, our fourth don't is don't bum rush public transport. You know, I know other places around the world, it's like the doors open on a bus or the doors open on a metro or something like that, and everybody tries to run in and run out at the same time. Well, they're a little bit more civilized here in Canada, okay?
Yeah, it's kind of like elevators. Wait for the people to exit before you try and enter. Well, I can't even imagine trying to fight my way through a crowd just to get in or out of a doorway.
So make sure you let people get off the bus or get off the SkyTrain or the train or the metro or whatever. Let people get off before you get on, okay? So no bum rushing, okay? No.
No bum rushing. I love that too. That's great. I don't live in a huge, gigantic city or anything where there's lots of public transportation everywhere. So I don't experience this bum rushing of the buses and stuff. So I'm sure that is very much a thing in a lot of huge American cities, probably in some major Canadian cities.
And in other parts of the world, sir. Think India, where there are many people and limited space.
Unless he's absolutely like 100% correct, are all Canadians that like well-mannered? I mean, that'd be fantastic.
Not all of us. The majority of us are, because we're trying to be considerate of others, treat others the way that we want to be treated. So if we want to be let off a bus or an elevator, then we let others get off the bus or elevator. But it's true. I've been in a lot of situations where I've tried to get out of an elevator and there were swarms of people trying to get in at the same time, and I just had to become big and say, whoa, let me and my people out of here. Back off. Get your own sandwich.
No group rushing onto the public transport, all right?
To be fair, most of those people were not raised in Canada.
Now, the fifth don't I have for you is don't expect to hear a lot of French outside of Quebec. I know in the U.S. we're taught that English and French are the two official languages of Canada, and everybody learns them and everybody can speak them and things like that. Well, that's not actually, well, it's the truth that everybody learns it, but it's also the truth that not everybody speaks it. Okay?
Yes, and you will hear French here and there, mostly coming from tourists, vacationers, and immigrants, because, well, you speak the language you're comfortable with around the people who speak it too. There's someone I met recently, and we spent maybe half the time we were together just speaking French because it was their first language. It's my second language. Sure, let's speak the same language. The rest of the time we spoke English because that's my first language and their second language. So, like, yeah, we can go back and forth. It's known as franglais, which is a mix between French and English, said with a French accent.
Oh, do all Canadians at some level of education get introduced to French? That would make complete sense, since there's
Yes.
a major French-speaking portion of Canada.
Yeah, consider it a minimum of grade 9 one semester. That's a minimum. And likewise, there's a minimum of one class starting in grade 3 when I was young. But I'm not sure on that because I was in French immersion and most of my classes were in French.
But yeah, I might have thought that French was widely spoken as a second language all over Canada at some point in my life. I probably did think that, but I've been watching a lot of I've been watching a lot of Canadian videos on YouTube, so now I know it is in Quebec.
Well, and also in other provinces, especially in towns that have a large French population, and that occurs in every province.
Okay, so if you're going to be in Quebec and the province is by Quebec, yes, you will need some French. But outside of that, if you're in Vancouver, no, you don't need it. Now, my next one has to do with safety for tourists, and I'll be honest, in general, Canada and Canadian cities are super safe. You're going to be fine walking around and enjoying yourself, but that doesn't mean don't pay attention. So my thing is for you is don't forget about basic safety precautions when you do come here to Canada, because you know what, there are parts of different towns you don't want to go to.
In the United States, safety and protecting your stuff, watching out for your stuff, to not be stolen and don't leave your keys. That's like second nature to Americans, because basically all Americans assume everyone else is out to steal your stuff, especially when you're in a major city. Like if you leave your bag somewhere or you're not looking, and certain cities are worse than others, but yeah, people all over the United States will definitely take your stuff.
Okay, similarly, there are people all over Canada that will take your stuff, but it's not something that we have to keep in the back of our minds. It is okay for me to set something down for a moment. It is okay to walk away and come back in many cases. I don't do it, but it's not something that I have to worry about. Like, if I walk down the street with a bag, I'm not afraid someone's going to try to steal my bag. You know what I mean?
It's kind of sad, but that's neither here nor there. But apparently much less of an issue in Canada, although I do assume it exists to some extent.
Yeah, crime is everywhere. It's just varying degrees.
Down east side here in Vancouver, it's not really a place you want to go as a tourist. And so you do want to pay attention. So maybe ask, hey, is there any part here in Toronto we shouldn't go, or in Vancouver or wherever? Just to have a heads up. So though it is super safe, don't forget the basic safety things that tourists need to know. And that kind of leads into our next don't, which is kind of a safety thing, is don't feed the animals. Look, when you come to Canada, and I'll talk about it, there's amazing national parks and provincial parks, and you're going to see so much nature around, and you're going to see amazing nature animals as well. Yeah, there's bears up here, there's beavers, there's all kinds of stuff. Like we saw black.
You know, this is probably a good tip, because I think a lot of Americans, they think of nature as just zoos. So when they're actually in real nature with real animals, they probably think they can feed them, and don't realize that the animal is actually a wild animal and is going to do whatever it wants to you if it feels like it, especially if you're feeding them.
And another big aspect of feeding wild animals, they will come to expect that they will get fed, which means they will go into human populations, harassing humans, disrupting the local ecosystem and their own lives, and potentially putting themselves at risk because you taught them humans will give you food. At Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona, the United States, the squirrels have been trained that people will feed them. And as a result, they will attack people who don't feed them. That's not something that we want to foster.
Just running around. don't feed the animals, okay? Unless you have something out against them, because if you feed the animals, they come back to the same spot. They come back into the cities and stuff like that. So don't feed the animals.
Okay.
Because it can be dangerous for them and for you. Now, my next don't for tourists is don't skip out on the gas stations and rest stops. Look, when you're coming to Canada, the country is huge. It's enormous. And when you're driving, you're going to be driving for hours.
Yes. So recently I was on a road trip that took me a long stretch of road on the Highway 401. And every, say, 30, 40 kilometers on that stretch of highway, there's a service station, which is basically you get off the highway, there's a gas station, there's a couple of restaurants, there's some washrooms, and there's a market where you can buy, like, I don't know, smokes and road trip snacks, okay? And if you miss one of them, you've got to wait like a half hour until you get to the next one. Maybe, depending on road conditions. It could be less, it could be more. And there's one rest stop that their gas station is out of service right now because it's under renovation. Which means if you say, oh, I'll get the next one because I still have some gas in my tank, you might get to the next one and find out they don't have gas, and you're going to run out of gas before you get to the next service station, which could be 40, 50 kilometers away. So it's very true. Don't skip them. If you think that it might be necessary, then it is necessary. You better stop and fill up.
Okay? And the thing is, you may drive for hours, but there's not stops every 40 or 50 kilometers, okay?
Not necessarily. Depends on the road that you're taking. And I'm talking about the 401 in the southern part of the eastern part of Ontario, which, as we learned in a recent video, is below the line where 50% of Canadians live. So if you're in the other parts of Canada, which is most of Canada, you could very well run out of gas between one town and another if you don't fill up in that first town.
So you really have to...
Really? Wow,
Really?
this is important for traveling in Canada, if this is true.
It's
Because
true.
in the United States, there's a gas station. Man, if you're traveling on the highway, the interstate through the United States, there's a gas station not even 50 kilometers apart. I think every 10.
So here he mentions the interstate system, which is a great system developed by the United States government for Army use to travel during the Cold War, send troops from one end of the country to anywhere else in the country through highways. So interstate, the highway that goes from state to state to state to state to state. Yes. In Canada, we don't really have an interstate system, but we do have the one road, the Trans-Canada Highway, and that's not the only road. It's just the road that goes from province to province to province to province. There are other roads that go from province to province, and there are roads that go through the province, either north or south, east, west, any of those directions that don't necessarily take the Trans-Canada Highway. And it's on those roads that you could very well run out of gas.
Every 10 kilometers, you'd find a gas station. Maybe more frequently. If you need gas or food in America and you're traveling on the highway, you are gonna be able to find it very quickly.
Traveling on the highway. And you're not always traveling on a highway.
They're everywhere very frequently. Actually, I'm really used to that. I'm used to relying on that. So this would be a big change for me.
Plan ahead. So if you see a rest stop coming up and you're at a half a tank, I would say go in and fill up. Because when you have these big distances, it can be that you start getting worried. Am I going to have enough gas to get to the next one? So do pay attention for that. Because I know when we drove from PEI to Toronto, there's a lot along the way. There's a few times I'm like, hey, I'm getting kind of worried, all right? So do fill up every chance you get. And the thing is when you do fill up your gas tank, our next don't is don't forget to fill up your tummy at Tim Hortons. Look,
because undoubtedly, when there's a rest stop that you gas up, you're gonna find a Timmy's. Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
Tim Hortons is like, they've got sandwiches like nicer than Subway.
Tim Hortons. Another another what do you call it?
Canadian institution.
Another reference to Tim Hortons. Oh, I've been hearing about Tim Hortons in a lot of videos, man. Really makes me. I mean, the donuts there look good.
I mean, they're not the best, but they're not bad either. They're pretty decent. Like, this is making me want to go out and get a 6 donuts. Timbits, maybe a sandwich. Like, look at the cruller. Oh, look at the chocolate dip right next to the cruller. My favorite donut is the chocolate cruller. It's where they take a cruller and then they dip it, just like the chocolate dip. So it's a chocolate dipped cruller. It's rare to find, but oh, it's so good. Worst case, you just smash the chocolate dip and the cruller together and make it a donut sandwich. Yeah.
I mean, and the coffee at Tim Hortons, I don't even care if it's bad. I don't care if it's like gas station coffee in the United States. Heck, over time, you kind of get used to a little gas station coffee. Maybe.
Tim Hortons coffee is not gas station coffee. It's better than that, but it's not the best coffee. You can get much better coffee, but they use 18% cream, so it is a good coffee.
Maybe when you eat enough Tim Hortons, it's like fast food here in America, where you kind of like that it's a little bad.
And it's actually not bad. It's okay. Things have changed over the past several years. Like, their hash brown went from so tasty to, ow, it hurts my teeth and doesn't taste good. Yeah.
A thing. Not that I'm calling Tim Hortons bad. It actually looks way better than a lot of the fast food gas station type places in America. But I just keep hearing about it, so it must be pretty good.
And they've got coffee like a Starbucks, and they've got donuts like Dunkin' Donuts, but way better donuts. Tim Hortons is a place you're going to go and eat and stop at the rest stops and gas stations around Canada. So don't skip out. Grab some Timbits, or I just like their normal donuts or a sandwich or something like that. So when you fill up that gas tank, fill up your tummy as well. And speaking of filling...
Okay. If you say so. He told me to. Okay.
It's true.
I'll take this blow for everyone and eat all the Tim Horton donuts. Dang it, I'll do it.
You've gotta get to Canada first, though, Tyler. Come on, take a trip. nerdpopeking@gmail.com. And let's go to a Tim Hortons. We'll go to a Bulk Barn. We'll go to a Loblaws. We'll go to the No Frills. We'll do some Canadiana.
Your tummy. My next don't for you when you come to Canada is don't eat from international chains. Eat from Canadian chains and Canadian restaurants when you come up here, because they have their own versions of all this fun, fantastic fast food kind of stuff that's really good. So whether you're grabbing a burgers or a burger,
I wouldn't have any trouble with this. I totally agree. If you're visiting Canada, eat the local Canadian food. That's what you're there for.
Although a lot of people will go for what they're familiar with, like going to a Popeyes or a KFC, when instead you could go somewhere that shows up on Google but you've never heard of before, right?
Harvey's, or you're heading to Tim Hortons.
Harvey's and Tim Hortons, Swiss Chalet, Canadian fast food institutions that are totally quality. I will go to a Harvey's for anywhere in Canada before I go to a McDonald's. Absolutely.
Or you're going to Swiss Chalet. There's a lot of restaurants you can hit up when you're driving around and enjoy. And yes, you should go to local mom and pop places. I mean, the food here is fantastic. You have so much immigration and so much culture that came here. And when people brought their culture, they also brought their spices. So the food is fantastic all over the country.
Cool.
So don't hit the Starbucks, hit the Tim Hortons. Don't hit the McDonald's, hit the Harveys. These kind of things, because you'll really get to experience some of the really great food that's here. Grab a beaver tail, which is, a fried dough with cinnamon sugar on it.
A beaver tail. I've heard of the beaver tail. I've seen the beaver tail in another video.
Oh, yeah, and I'm supposed to go buy a beaver tail and film myself eating it, I think. I guess I have to leave the house to do that.
About Canadian snacks. They look good.
So good. Or, of course, you got to have poutine, which is French fries with cheese curds and gravy on top. Oh, my God.
Not gravy.
Yeah, there's so many
poutine, of course.
Great little treats you can have, and you have those at the Canadian restaurants, not the international chains. Hit those Canadian chains.
Go to a dairy if you can. Yes.
And what's crazy is the Canadian
Okay.
chains, I find it do a better job than a lot of their American counterparts back in the U.S. For example, A&W, I am not a fan of A&W, the restaurants in the U.S., but in Canada, man, I'll take my kids to them like that. They're good, they're nice, and they've got root beer. Another great thing that Canada and the U.S. do together.
Oh yeah, Canadian A&W is a great spot to go for breakfast as well. Their sandwiches they're served on their sides. Okay, so get yourself a sandwich, right? And you eat it like this, nom nom. But when they give it to you, it's like this, and all the toppings kind of sag down at the bottom. Who thought that was a good idea? Digress. Move on.
We both love root beer. Always a nice thing. And so if you're going out to eat, you're going to have really nice service when you are here. And that kind of leads us into the next don't of coming to Canada. And that is, don't forget to tip your waiter. In Canada, you...
Oh, well, this is no problem for Americans because tipping is not only normal, but completely expected.
And it is also expected here in Canada for sit-down restaurants, but it is not expected in all parts of the world.
That you tip at restaurants, when you get your hair cut, when you get a massage, but definitely you tip at when you eat at restaurants. You tip your waiter in America every time.
You tip 15 to 20% to the wait staff. Like, not at a fast food place, but if you're at a sit-down restaurant where they bring you your food and drinks and stuff like that, 15 to 20% is standard, okay? Leading off of that is our next don't. Don't expect the price to be what you actually pay. Here in Canada, they have sales tax, and you'll see different versions of it. You'll see a GST and a PST here in Vancouver.
HST.
Or you'll see HST over in Ontario. So basically, GST, goods and services tax, PST, provincial sales tax, HST, harmonized sales tax. So you have sales tax that are added on to the price at the end. So,
oh my gosh, this is a little complicated. Probably not as complicated as it sounds. I'm just hearing like all of it at once for the first time. I'm somewhat aware of all this tax in Canada. I think all I need to know is that be prepared to pay more at the end than the price that it costs on the board or on the sticker or whatever.
Yes, so there are a lot of rules that go into tax equations. Basically, assume you will pay between 10 and 20% extra in tax. That will not always happen because there are many things that are not taxed, but the majority of everything is taxed, so just be ready that your price tag might be up to 20% higher than you calculated when you were looking at price tags.
Because there's going to be a lot of sales tax.
if it's $10 for something, $10 for it, well, you're going to pay $11.50 because that's 15% if you got HST at 15%. Okay, so just know, don't think that price is the last thing you're going to pay. So sales tax plus tipping. So prices, don't expect them to always be what you actually pay here in Canada.
I mean, Americans are used to tax on everything we buy, a little more than the sticker price, just not very much, I'd say. Like, going from $10 to $11.50, it's close. It's pretty similar, honestly, the more I think about it.
Thing is, when you go to Europe, specifically like UK, and I know in the Netherlands also, what you see on the sticker price is the price that you pay. So you can actually add it all up, and that's going to be the true value. So this is more for European and possibly Asian, African, South American. I really don't know a lot about how tax works internationally, but I know there are many places where sticker price is the final price, but not here.
Okay, I'd survive.
Another don't I have for you, and I've kind of mentioned this before, is don't skip out on the national parks and the provincial parks throughout Canada. I know it's a huge country, so you're going to be staying in a different region when you see stuff. And if you see there's a provincial park or a national park nearby, hop in the car and go visit it. Because the views and the hikes or the skiing, there's so many options out there for you to enjoy, snowshoeing and stuff like that. Whether you're going to Banff.
Oh yeah, you don't gotta tell me twice. It's like going to the Canadian restaurants. That's what you're here for. Enjoy
Yeah.
the national parks. Enjoy the beauty. Come
You're
on.
going, Banff is great, okay? You're going out to PEI because the nature here is really, for me, the nature of Canada is the real reason why you come here. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Toronto is an awesome city to visit. But, when you got a place like Vancouver, it's actually the nature you want to see, not the skyscrapers. And so get out and enjoy them, okay? So don't think it's just a city tour, city visit of Toronto and Montreal when you're coming here to Canada. The nature is the true star of this country.
Absolutely. I grew up in a forest outside Ottawa, so I was raised in the nature, and we took many vacations and trips that ended up in parks or by the shore, so I was raised around nature. I live now in town, but the nature, the wilderness, it's part of my soul, and I'm going to get back out there again and again and again before I die. Hopefully, probably, more than likely. Let's keep going.
My next don't for you is don't freak out about the prices. Now I know HGTV has taught us that Canada has insane prices. Yeah, that's only...
I actually didn't... This isn't something that I think of when I think of Canada. I don't think, oh, insane, crazy prices on everything. I actually never had that thought. No one ever told me.
Well, this has a lot to do with the exchange rate and how it's highly fluctuating, and, well, yes, we have to pay more than Americans on average.
State, okay? If you're looking at actual going out to eat and things like that in hotels, I find the prices here in Canada to be comparable to the US and Western Europe. So it's not an expensive vacation. It's not a cheap vacation. It's just an average vacation, okay? So don't freak out about the prices. I know HGTV makes it $1 million for a one-bedroom, 300 square foot place here in Vancouver. Well, yeah, probably. But for you as a tourist, no, okay? Prices, don't freak out about them, all right?
Oh, yes, the housing market is insane here in Canada, and that is its own little microcosm. The regular cost of living, aside from housing, is it's okay. It's very American. It's just 30 of our dollars is worth less than 30 of your dollars. So if you're used to paying, let's say, $20 for a full meal at a restaurant, and then you come here and you have to pay $30, for example, I don't think our exchange rate is that bad, but if it is, then that's what explains the number difference. It's just math. Yeah, I'm not great at math quickly when I'm talking about other things and thinking about other things. What can I say? I didn't calculate those numbers.
And speaking of the money, don't throw away your coins. Look, in Canada, they actually have coins that are worth something. They have a...
Why? I don't care where you are or what kind of currency you have. Why would you just throw away your coins? I mean...
Oh, there's people who do it.
In the United States, we really don't use much coins, or a lot of people don't use cash that much anymore. But we certainly would never throw it away. And I would never throw away my Canadian coins. If I had some Canadian coins, I'd clutch them like they were treasure. You could never pry them away from me. But, yeah, what was he saying about your coins can be turned in for something?
Your coins. Look, in Canada, they actually have coins that are worth something. They have a $1 coin and a $2 coin, the loonie and the toonie. I'll let you guess which one's the 1 and the 2, all right? And those are actually worth something. Like, you can get stuff with that. So when you get all your change in your pocket before you leave, don't just throw it out. See what you have.
Oh, he's saying that the coins in Canada, which is almost a tongue twister, but it didn't get me. The coins in Canada are high enough denomination, loonie and toonie. Like, you'd have multiple dollars, many dollars with all your coins. Whereas in the United States, if you had a bunch of coins, well, most of the coins are worth much, much, much less than $1 each.
Right.
So you could have like 50 coins and maybe not even have $1. But in Canada, you'd probably have a bunch of dollars. So coins, the value of the coins is much different in Canada versus United States.
Yes, to be clear, we have coins that are 5 cents or 5% of $1. We have 10. We have 25. Then we have $1. Then we have $2. We got rid of the 1 cent or 1/100th or the 1% of a dollar. We don't even use that, so these coins are not valueless. They add up pretty quick.
I get it.
I mean, today we paid for our breakfast in coins, okay? So you do have valuable coins, so don't just throw them away. But also, don't expect to see pennies. They don't have pennies here, so you can't really flip it in for good luck or flip it in to make a wish. So there is that.
No. So as a result, if you go to fountains where people have made wishes, you can see some serious money in there, like $2 coins. And you scrounge it all up, you might have like $20.
My next note for you here in Canada is, which should be obvious everywhere in the world, but here especially, don't forget your manners. Look, you're going to hear sorry and a lot of apologies when you are here in Canada. And what you find is the longer you stay here, you start saying sorry, sorry, sorry a lot more. It's like, oops, I bumped into this inanimate object. I feel I must say sorry to it.
I mean, that's a great problem. It's not even a problem. That's a great attribute for a nation, a culture to have, to be super polite. And so what? You say, if you say sorry too much, no such thing. I think that's great.
Exactly. Like the other day at the gym, someone had their locker open and it was in the way of me opening my locker. I just slowly opened my locker a little bit so I could get in there, and he moved his locker door and he said, "Oh, sorry about that." I'm like, don't worry about it. We're good. That's the kind of sorry. Is like, yeah, we're very polite with each other. And we like it. It brings a smile. It makes us feel good inside.
I'd probably start saying it all the time, like he's saying, if I assimilated into the Canadian culture. I like this.
You do have that kind of polite apology, sorry nature here, so don't worry if you become more apologetic while you are here, but don't forget your manners, because when people say sorry, tell them, hey, no worries, man, it's all good, no problem, all right? So you have that. Now, my next don't for you, and it should be obvious by watching this video, is don't think that Canada is just ice and snow all year round. I'll be honest, we spent a summer traveling through Canada a few years ago with a family. It was fantastic. We were from Prince Edward Island, and we were in Quebec City.
This is a huge thing for Americans to get through their brain.
Yeah.
They really do believe here in America that Canada is snow, cold, ice for most of the year. Maybe all the time. And that's just not true.
No, our summers get hot, hot, hot.
And we were outside enjoying stuff, and it was warm, it was beautiful, it was sunny. You have this great weather here in the spring and the summer and the fall. You have good weather. Yeah, in the winter, no, it's cold and crappy. Actually, except for here in Vancouver, where it's just rainy, it doesn't actually snow very much here in Vancouver, huh? Shocking, I know. But the thing is, don't think it's always ice and cold and stuff like that, all right? Know that, man, if you come here from May through September, you can have a great family vacation and enjoy yourself. I mean, we're here in May in Vancouver. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt and loving it. I mean, I'm actually getting sunburned, so I actually need to put a hat on. So just have a heads up for that one. Anyway.
Oh, and that's something you got to watch out if you're on a Canadian road trip, because the sun will come right through those windows and it will burn your arm because it's in the window. You gotta be careful. Wear your sunscreen out there.
I hope this helps you know a few things you don't do as a tourist when you come here to Canada. It's a fantastic place. Whether you're coming here to Vancouver, hitting up Winnipeg, you're going to Toronto, PEI, Nova Scotia. There's so many great things to see, from Niagara Falls to the national parks, the provincial parks. But for me, the people are what makes it so great. The people are so nice, so don't forget to meet the locals. Though it shouldn't be a problem because they'll come and chat you up.
Don't forget to chat with the locals. Yes, very deserving of his final tip.
No problem whatsoever about all kinds of great topics. Anyway, I hope you have a great time here in Canada. If you want to learn more, 5 things you'll love and hate about visiting Canada, 10 things that'll shock you about coming to Canada. Maybe you want to know a little bit about...
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Wow, that was very good. That was very fun. That was by Walter's World.
Very informative, very accurate. Yeah, I like Walter.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like this guy. He's very fun. And he makes a lot of good points, to be perfectly honest. And man, I was kind of nervous about this list of things, what not to do in Canada. Never do these things ever. And a lot of it amounted to just be a decent person, for one thing, when you're traveling and being a foreigner in another land, in another country. Be humble, like, be polite, and know that you're the one coming to visit where they all live. So you're the one who needs to be on their best behavior in that situation.
Oh, don't forget, of course, take in the local culture. Stop and appreciate the nature. Remember to talk to the people and find out what is there around here that you think me, as a tourist or visitor, should check out.
And a lot of what he was saying alluded to that. So, actually, I really enjoyed his list. Let me see, what else did he have? Don't forget to tip. Don't miss out on the natural beauty. Yes, a lot of the tips were just enjoy Canada while you're there. Make sure you enjoy it. Soak it in.
That's right, because there is so much to appreciate about this very big piece of land.
Get in. And I totally agree with that. Don't compare Canada to the US. Too late. Don't practice your Canadian accent, okay? I won't. Yeah, don't line jump. Just, be decent. Don't be a weird American that thinks they know everything when you
a rude American, right?
Go to Canada. Got it. I can do that. Anyway, I enjoyed this quite a bit. And if you enjoyed this video quite a bit, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you very much for watching. I enjoy your company every time I do this. I'm just glad that someone's watching, appreciating, liking the video, saying something because they're like, oh, I have something to contribute. Go ahead, do that. I love it. Even if I don't comment or like it or read it for even a few weeks at a time, and I apologize if I'm making you wait. If I'm making you wait, just comment again, and I'll take the hint. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you liked this. I liked it. I like you. I hope you just keep being awesome. Bye.